Buddy.
Good morning, Bill.
Hello, Bill.
Hey.
Good morning,
How are
Al.
you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing well, too. I'm moving in 2 days.
Oh, wow.
Where to?
Yeah. Where to? At the YWAM base in Dunham.
Oh, so you're moving out. Your sister's really happy, huh?
My brother-in-law is.
Oh, geez. Hey, Allison, how are you?
Yeah.
Good to see you guys. I figure I'd give a minute here while everybody's trying to come in.
Slowly gathering, huh?
Yes, it's one of those, it takes a little while. It's kind of, people need their coffee. and I assume Allison's got her French press going or something. Oh, good. So I thought I would just slowly get us kind of started and then ask everybody to, again, introduce, and we'll have more people coming in as they come. I'm finding, and at some point, I thought it would be good, not necessarily today, but in the future, to kind of do a review of the speakers in general. It'd be interesting for generic kind of feedback that we could give to people, what we liked in presentations, and maybe give some people feedback to know what would be good in the future. The one thing I'm noticing is all of us are having to make presentations all the time if you're in this industry, and you really need to be able to communicate quickly, and most people aren't going to give you much more than 2 to 5 minutes in a casual conversation, which we often call that elevator speech, when you hop on an elevator or walking down the hall, or somebody says at a meeting, hey, what do you do? So hopefully this is helping everybody get better at those skill sets and practicing. And now you kind of know who your audience is too. So this morning, why don't I go around? I'm just going to mention your first name unless I need to do the last name, and just have you again announce your name, kind of what you're doing and where you're located. Start with Bill Bangham. You're up in my right-hand corner.
Okay. Live in Short Pump outside of Richmond, Virginia, and just finished up a piece that's going to go into a traveling exhibit for the next 3 years. So kind of glad that's over with, you know, or maybe it's over with and the prep is over with and the starting is beginning.
Allison, tell us about yourself.
I live in Columbus, Ohio. I just wrapped up a video for ABWE. If you go to their blog, you can see it.
Can you put the link of that up in the chat when you get a chance, and then everybody can go to that?
Sure.
Hey, John, tell us about yourself.
Good morning, John Walton. I'm in Arlington, Texas, working with Lifeline Global Ministries. It's a prison ministry. And just kind of on hold, we're starting to get some of our teams back into prisons and working, but that's good. Working on a newsletter right now to get out for the summer.
Mark.
I'm Mark Johnson. I'm in Athens, Georgia, where I teach at the University of Georgia. And I'm doing 2 things this week. I'm trying first not to get yelled at anymore. And secondly, try to figure out how in the world I teach photojournalism in our current situation.
I bet you that is a challenge. James Dockery.
Hey, James Dockery here from Charlotte, North Carolina. I work at ESPN as a video editor, and it's a little calm right now. Not much sports going on. I'm doing the occasional edit from home, but not a whole lot. I'm mainly serving as a technical advisor and helping other editors with problems that they have in Premiere right now.
I need to call you for my problems too.
I got some time on my hands.
Alan.
Well, I'm Brownfield. I work with Wycliffe Bible Translators and basically just handling stuff that's needs to be tended to right now. Normally, we're trying to do assignments for about Bible translation globally, and everything's on hold. So, looking after photo library and trying to manage a few things, selling a few things on eBay,
I'm not supposed to do
doing
this.
things
No, we
that
don't have
you don't
anybody.
get time to do, get rid of some old equipment and things like that. So, not very
Just tell
exciting
them that
in
we're not
those
interested.
terms. Just do all I do now. I think there's a lot of photos. More when my walks, I go and take my camera with me just to do photos. I just to start using it more than I do, or else it just sits. So yeah.
And the two people I'm going to go to, since they're the speakers, I'll let them kind of introduce themselves a little bit more later. But Warren Johnson, just tell us where you are, kind of what you're doing these days.
I'm in Richmond, and I'm not doing a lot of freelance now, but years ago I worked with Stanley at the International Mission Board. I was there for 35 years as a photographer, and I worked with Mr. Bangham, who's, I think he's on today too.
Billy, tell us about yourself. We can't hear you. You're muted. There you go.
There you go. All right. Billy Weeks, Ringgold, Georgia, near Chattanooga, Tennessee. Just happy to be here. Thanks, guys.
Cool. Well, what I'm going to do first is start with Julie. And I'll kind of set up a little background about how I know Julie, because she may not be able to tell you all that. But the main thing is about in 2006, I got a phone call because my friend Dennis Fahringer, at that time I didn't know who he was, had asked Joanna Pinio to teach lighting. And she started laughing and says, "No, I can't do that. You need to talk to Stanley." So that started my time teaching out in Hawaii with YWAM. And about 150 students later, one of those was Julie, who took the class. And it's a pretty intensive class where Gary Chapman teaches out there, Bill Bangham's taught out there. We've had, I cannot think of how many people have gone out and taught in that workshop, but for 3 months, that's all they're doing, living and breathing, is photography. They don't have anything else to do except go eat, work, and do the photography. So Julie's one of the people who went through the program, and then she was so brave, and her friend and her have decided to teach that workshop in Canada and doing it in French and English starting this fall. So I'll let Julie take it from here. Share your screen and tell us all you can.
Okay, well, thank you. Yep, I'm Julie. I live in Granby, Quebec. So like Stanley said, actually I did my school in 2018 in Kona. And so I'm pretty new in photography, actually. And during the school, I took a bunch of photos of landscapes and birds and flowers because Hawaii is beautiful for that. But I wanted to do something else with my photography eventually. So fast forward, when I came back last year in March, end of March, from staffing that school, got put on my heart to do stories about immigrants living in my hometown. So what I did, I just went to see Sori. This is an organization here in my hometown that offers various services to immigrants. And I offered them to do a photo story on the intercultural twinning program. So they said yes. And one of my goals is also to make this program known, but also to share what immigrants are going through when they come in here in Canada. So I have the privilege to be mentored by Bill. And actually, Joanna talked about mentorship last week, and I think it's so important. I mean, without Bill, my projects wouldn't be the same. My stories wouldn't be the same. And so I'm learning from his experience. It gives me practical advice, encouragement, and support. And he helped me look at my stories from different perspectives that I wouldn't thought of, so on my own. And I think it helps me also to just develop my skills. So I encourage you, if you don't have a mentees, if someone is looking for a mentor, it's really helping, actually. I'm learning a lot. So I'll share my screen and show you the stories I did. Okay, that's my first time sharing my screen on this. So can you see it?
Not yet.
Not yet. Let me know when you see it.
The share screen thing's on the bottom, and then you have to choose what you're looking at from a little menu that comes up there.
Okay, desktop, I guess. It says open system preferences.
No, at the bottom of the Zoom screen, it says share screen.
Yeah, share screen.
And then it should give you a bunch of things, whatever you've got open for sharing, what app you're using.
Allow Zoom to share your screen. Security and privacy to grant access.
Yeah, you need to go there to allow the program to do that.
Okay, sorry about that. I didn't know. Okay, here. Sorry, I shared on the team yesterday, but not on this. So I guess this should be okay. So do you see it now?
You may end up having to log out and come back in to Zoom possibly.
Yeah, that's what, in the meeting, you mean?
Yeah, you may have to leave the meeting and come back.
Yeah, okay, I'll leave and come back.
Hello, everyone. We've all been here before.
Yeah.
You know, Stan, one thing you were talking about when you first came on is asking questions about the Premier guy. We ought to have a Q&A session some week, or just ask questions to each other of different things.
Go ahead,
so
Julie.
do you see now?
No, you need to share it again and then click which screen and then hit OK.
Sorry.
It's a two-step.
Okay,
there
I think
you go.
it will work. Yay!
There you go.
Okay, so I need just to go here and here and here. Okay, good. So, so in May last year, I was paired with an African family just arrived in January, and a local family actually. So this is the story of Lazare, Clémence, Dorcas, Ornella, and Marie-Madeleine, and they are from Niger. So the volunteer-based program helps actually newcomers to integrate into the daily life of Quebec, and it encourages them and the local families to learn about one another. So yeah, so it also helps newcomers deal with the feelings of isolation they face. So with the help of local families, so we do different activities with them. We do shopping, just showing, you know, the stores. And also, well, this is a cultural exchange. So, you know, we share, but they also share. And we give, but they also give. So in this photo, actually, Ornella is offering the cake to the little girl, Catherine, for her birthday. So it was very important for her to give also. They, you know, it's not just us that is giving, but they like to give too. So we organized different activities so they could discover the city, like tube sliding at -5 Fahrenheit. It was really cold on that day. So, and the activities that we do with them, it allows them to just develop a sense of belonging to their new city. So here, Petrina from the local family, she's also an immigrant actually, but she arrived, I think it's 15 years ago. And so she's helping Clémence with some homework. And the father, Lazare, is learning to write and to read. Actually, is like a level 2, elementary 2, I think you say, maybe in the US. So he received help from a volunteer. It's not, you know, the local family, but a volunteer from the organization. And this is Clémence. So through the year, we got to know each other. There's many things that weren't said because they faced like a lot of suffering and challenges through, you know, their journey. So even if we have a friendship with them, it remains difficult sometimes to share about some events. But we really witnessed their resilience and their perseverance. So it was a nice time with them. Oh, sorry, just don't want to show that yet. So we were supposed to do an exhibit last Saturday, actually on June 20th, that is Refugee Day, World Refugee Day, but it has been postponed. So, but I'm meeting with them next week. They still want to do an exhibit, but it will probably be outside. So we'll see. The pandemic changed a lot of things. Another project that I have that I'm working on is, and it's still in progress, it's called Granby, My New Hometown, where I do short stories of immigrants. And this is Radija. Actually, it's not a real name, but so after doing her story, she actually became my friend. And we have really like deep conversations about her religion, and she's really open to hear about my relationship with Jesus. I truly believe this is a divine appointment, actually, and I'm so looking forward to see what God is, you know, will do through our relationship. And just before the lockdown, I was able to spend a day with Alexandra's family. And actually, she's a mother of 4, 2 of whom are autistic, and very possibly a third. And she's a special needs teacher. So, and when people hear a story that she has 4 children and 3 of whom are autistic, she said that they take pity on her. But the truth is that she doesn't feel like that. And she said that she's blessed to have the unique opportunity to take care of 4 unique human beings. So that's what I wanted to show through that story. Sorry, I'm talking, but I'm not changing, not showing the pictures. So this is just a real life. And this is the oldest that is neurotypical. And so this is her oldest son, Antoine. He's 6 years old. So she said that at first he didn't want any hugs or kiss, but you know, with the work she did with him, she was able to to be able to give him hugs.
Nice moment.
And that's it for my pictures. So these are all personal projects. This is what God put on my heart, and what He puts on my heart, I do. So yeah, they haven't been published yet, except on my Facebook, professional Facebook page and Instagram. But that's what I like to do. And I'm also doing like newborns, family concerts, weddings to pay the bills. But what I enjoy to do is doing photo stories, because I think it brings an awareness, hope. Yeah, and this is the real life, and I think that's what makes the difference, and how, you know, people are perceived. So that's what I do.
Any questions for Julie?
Yeah, Julie, do you prefer, you've got a lot in black and white, or do you prefer going that direction rather than color?
Yes, I really appreciate white, black and white. I don't know, I think it's, you know what, it put the emphasis on the person. And like, you know, some environment may be very cluttered. I don't know. I think when it's black and white, we focus on people.
I like the way you caught the moment, like even in this photo, of just the expression. You know, mom's turned away. The child, you can see there's that interaction. It humanizes them a lot. So how do you do that? How are you working with them? Are you just sitting and waiting, or are you just telling them to go about what they do? Or how do you interact with the people as you're trying to get natural photos? And how are you using your time?
Yes, well, with this family, actually, I spend a full day with them. So like from 7:30 in the morning to 5. And at the beginning, I just like interacted with them so they know me, the children, and, you know, but at one point, they didn't even like see me. So I was just like taking pictures of their life. And actually, and this is what I like to do. Just being there and being like a witness of their life. So there's nothing planned. She was just doing what she used to do.
Are you
And
familiar
maybe as an introvert, that's easier to work this way. Actually posing people and say, okay, go here, go there, do that. It's not me. I like taking pictures of real life.
Yeah, looks great. I really enjoy it.
Are you familiar with the program? I don't know if it's still around. Sound Slides.
No.
This is your work would be a great example, a great thing for use. It's basically a way to add audio to a slideshow, and it's different than video in that you don't have to synchronize, you know, sound. It's not like video interviews, but you just capture moments of audio and comments, and you put them together. And your work there would be great to have some good audio elements with it, and it would make it really, really dynamic, really interesting.
So how do you call that? Sorry.
You know, why don't you message me later? We'll talk about that later.
Yep, sure.
I'll have to check to see if it's even. It's an older program. It was used several years ago. It's called Sound Slides. But you could do it with video, but the difference is that with video, you're often getting sound. Capturing sound in sync, but with just audio, you don't have to. You can get people's comments and voices, and you just putting them over your still pictures, and it really adds a deeper element to your story. That I only mentioned that because I just went through an old video I did in 2009 using Sound Slides, and maybe later I can show it to you. Tell you what I mean.
It's very similar to what we taught you in the Photo 2 class, where you took the still pictures and just put them over you can do it, but you just end up with an audio track. The Sound Slides is out, and it creates a video when it's done. But it's basically same as a Premiere, except he's saying you just have a soundtrack, and then you have your photos to go along with it. And the software makes it easy to do it, but if you already know how to do Premiere, it'll work as well. I think Mark Johnson used to teach with the Sound Slides, and then he switched over to Premiere, if I'm correct. I think it's easier actually in Premiere than it is in the Sound Slides because your timing's easier.
It probably is. The point is it's an audio
Yeah.
soundtrack that you don't have to sync with video. You don't have to
Yeah.
have a video camera. You can just use an audio camera. But I think, I don't know about you, I think her work would be great to have that kind of element into it.
Yeah. Worst case, you could do that within Lightroom or even within Photoshop.
Yeah.
We
So
stopped
actually what I
teaching
did
sound
with
science.
those, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Julie.
No, sorry. What I did with those photos is I published one photo per day for 8 days with the text. So that's what I did. But I imagine like Alexandra telling her own story. It would be.
Yeah.
Do you have a small audio recorder or something with you, or?
You can use your camera and just hit the and record video and use the sound.
You can use your iPhone too.
I was just going to follow up on what Stanley said. We taught sound slides here at the University of Georgia for, I don't know, 6 or 8 years. And we stopped teaching it about the time that Flash started to become an issue, because the original version exported a Flash file, which
Yeah.
wasn't playing on mobile devices at all. The next generation of sound slides did start producing video files. But from an educational standpoint, we decided to transfer over to teaching basically the same skill set, just in Adobe Premiere. It gave us a little more control, and it allowed the students to use it, to learn a tool that they could use in more ways. But I agree, I would love to hear some voices along with these pieces. And I'd like to ask a question, Ed. At what point during making the set of photos did you start figuring out both who the audience was going to be and how you wanted to present this story? Was there a moment that you said, okay, this is what the story is? Did you know what it was before you came in? Or did it come about through the editing process?
This story in particular?
Yeah, let's do this one.
Well, actually, I just had on my heart to, just had on my heart to go spend a day and see what was a reality. And actually, I didn't know, but I knew just a few days after I ended up doing the story that this was in end of March, and April was Autism Month. So it was interesting. But no, I don't know. I just had on my heart to share a story and just did it.
Okay, thank you.
But like I said, it hasn't been published anywhere else than on my Facebook page and Instagram. So as for the audience, it's a small audience. I'm still trying to figure out how to publish my stories.
I think everybody is right now.
Any other questions for Julie? Oh, I want to transition. Thank you, Julie. I think you did an excellent job. I put your Instagram feed up in the chat so people can go there and see her. You can go to where she was talking about the daily posts. She's also, you can look for her on Facebook. She's doing very similar there. So the next person we have is Jeff Raymond, who I started working with. We had this workshop in Texas that Bill and I think Warren's been part of it. I think most of you have been there at the Southwestern Photojournalism Conference, but that's where I met Jeff. And then through the years, he had all these opportunities for people to go on the field to work. And then he did photography first and got people like James, who was doing photography all over the world for him. And then slowly, I think it was around,
oops, sorry.
What year was that? 2006 or 7, but he'll tell you the rest. But anyway, Jeff and I have been doing some workshops together along with James, teaching how to do a video. And then Bill came along with us on this past year and helped as well. So I'm just going to let Jeff tell you whatever he's got going on, and go ahead and take over there, Jeff.
Hey, that's a loaded question. Yeah, so God has called me into the ministry of hurting photographers, not hurting, but hurting, like gathering. So you know, working with creative people, I could, if I start telling stories, we'd be here for a really long time, especially if I start telling Stanley stories and all the trips that we've done together. But I wore my double shirt for you today, Stanley. Any of you have been to Trinidad before? So Ken's doubles, you know, it's this food they serve on the streets that you show up and they slop it on. By the time you're done, you're wearing more of it than is in your stomach. And you wonder how in the world anybody lives through it. It cannot be at all healthy for you in terms of the way that they prepare it, but we keep going back for more. So that was doubles in Trinidad. So, you know, today I kind of want to share a little more what's on my heart more than what's on my hard drive. I mean, God's truth is far more impressive than my photography anyway. But I've been thinking a lot. I'll share my screen in a little while, but right now I've just been kind of thinking about how, you know, God knows us intimately, right? Since we were kids, we've been taught that God knows everything about us. And one of the things that he did is he made us to be visual beings. He knows us, right? So he knows that we're wired visually. I love Psalm 103 says, he knows how we were formed. Well, duh, you know, who else would know how we're formed? And, you know, so that's why at Storytellers Abroad, we kind of hang our hats on the verse, Psalm 40, verse 3, which says, may many see what God has done. May many see what God has done. Why? The end of the verse captures it all. So they may swear allegiance to him and put their trust in the Lord. So if you've ever wondered why in your career, why does visual content connect with people's hearts? That's it right there, that verse, because God made us that way. And even yesterday, I was in a photo shelter seminar they did, you know, all day, and it was very heavily geared toward content marketing. But one of the quotes I wrote down said, social content today lives in visuals. So here's these, you know, savvy visual communicators out in the business world, movers and shakers, who may or may not have a clue what God's word says. And they're making observations of reality that perfectly align with God's truth. And, you know, I thought that was so cool. But on the other side, creative people have been told forever and ever by the church that there's no role for you in God's economy. You know, like when you decide to do something meaningful with your life, come on back to us. And yet every day I'm talking to creative people who really they all have the same question, some form of the question. You know, it says, you know, I love my camera and I love missions. I have no clue how to put the two of those together. And so to have the opportunity to show people stepping stones is awesome. I love what I do. Just Wednesday, I was mentoring one of our storyteller alumni who feel like God's calling her into full-time missions. So, but her sending church is, they don't see how visual storytelling can be a ministry focus. And I'm like, there's so many that don't get it. But the ironic thing in this case, this is a mega church, and I'm automatically kicking into this. Really, what would happen if they're not so important or not so primary, you know, ministry sound guy or lighting guy decided that he wasn't going to show up Sunday to run their, you know, their concert-like worship experience. And so in our ministry, I'm continually waving that banner of 1 Corinthians 12, you know, the gifts, everybody's got different gifts, right? But that every gifting is given by God for building up the body. From the perspective that God called us, He created us, from his perspective, a missionary doctor, for example, is no more valuable than a lay person who's teaching Sunday school at church. Or this pastor of this church that I was talking about is no more valuable in God's economy than a visual expert, you know, that's heading up his worship service, or in a visual storyteller who God calls to go to Africa to tell stories. I love that verse. When people see with their own eyes, he made us to see. When we see with our own eyes what God's doing, they surrender. Hearts are turned. And so this stuff's been on my heart and mind, as I see what a lot of visuals are going through during difficult times, and realize there's a higher purpose. There's something far more important, no matter what the world tells us. God gave us what he gave us for a reason. I hope you find encouragement in that. I do. It's not the question Stanley gave me today. He said, what are you doing to keep busy, right? Well, that's not a problem. Any of you who know me know that the word bored is not in Jeff's vocabulary, except maybe if I work in my wood shop, but that doesn't happen very often. We got 5 kids at home, and we keep very busy. And in our mission agency, I wear a number of hats as well. We've got about 1,000 missionaries in 75 countries. So in addition to the communications responsibilities, I play key roles in our training of new missionaries and recruiting new missionaries, especially in the visual communications fields. So what have I been doing during this time? So we've got growing teams of storytellers. 2020 has really given a great opportunity to step back and work on some of the infrastructure, some of the leadership design that remains to keeping us relevant in communications. And so I've been busy with everything from rethinking our asset management and workflow to the biggest thing I've been buried in these last couple of weeks is a complete curriculum redesign for our new missionary training. I'll share my screen here and show you a couple things. So let's go here. Yeah, I'll show you. This is what it looked like exactly 2 minutes before this meeting started today, when I start to launch my PowerPoint and my dying computer shows me this. Have a brand new computer, but it's not worked from the day I got it 4 months ago. Thank you, Lenovo. Okay, so let's, okay. So I'm going to talk about one project. I'm going to talk about one story. I'm going to talk about one inspiration. So early on during house arrest, I felt the need to create something relevant, anything to make a difference, something to do. And I came up with an idea that I pitched to our communications team that would allow our international headquarters staff, we're here in Pennsylvania, there's 80 or 90 on staff here, to just bring some hope and some encouragement to what our missionaries were struggling with around the world. So in the industry, we keep hearing echoes of, how do we produce content when we can't go out and shoot anything? Yet every day we're sitting here staring at our screens with people right in our face that are pouring their hearts out to us. And so the idea was to virtually record a whole bunch of people with a single voice, a single message, telling our missionaries, basically, we love you and we got your back. And so the pre-production, the post-production is pretty complicated on this, but in the end, we effectively were able to shoot 54 people over a very intense 8.5-hour day. And so then the fun editing began, because you've got 54 different quality webcams, 54 different microphones, 54 different sound environments, different internet connections, and it resulted in a minute and under 2 minute video that I'm not going to show you today because I know how bad it comes through Zoom, but we'll send the link out for those that want to see how this sequence of voices, just a few words by each person, and kept the flow and the message going. It was, in the end, it was a huge hit, had a great impact on our teams, and it was good to be part of that. So on these, on our Storytellers Abroad trips, you heard Stanley reference them, and we talk about these quite a bit. One story I want to tell you from our trip to Kosovo a few years ago. So the way this works is everybody comes to our headquarters for 3 days of training before we head overseas. And this group going to Kosovo was very unusual in that a lot of them were coming at it. Bill, I know you've been to Kosovo. Some of you others have been there. It's one of my favorite places. I've been there so many times. But here's people, wait a minute, I'm a little bit, isn't that like where they kill people? And I'm afraid to even go there. And so we added some sessions where our Islamic directors talked to everybody, and it was very apparent very soon that nobody in the room had ever even met an Islamic person, let alone talked to one. So we added that to some of our training. We go over there, pack up, try to make the airlines happy. That's always fun. We usually arrive on a Saturday, and then we send everybody into churches. Or Saturday, they meet the person they're doing their story on, and we send them into churches to do some photography and video that next morning. Well, in Kosovo, we didn't have any churches established yet, so we did a worship service with our missionaries there, and then we took them here. So day one, I'm afraid to even go to this place, and we walk into the biggest mosque in the country. It was amazing. We had free reign of the place. We could shoot anything we wanted. The imam's son bent over backwards, because in that culture, it showed respect that we showed interest in their mosque, and he'd answer questions, and we had to take off our shoes and wear head coverings and things like that. Some of you know that drill. But the imam's son, he's like, oh, I'm going to put on my dad's garb and have fun with this, and he posed for pictures. And then James, the eternal source of entertainment, he's like, hey, I want to put those things on. So here's James Docker, imam garb. Maybe a good gig for you, bud. I'm going to try that sometime. But so in the end, we have, on day one, we have this amazing experience. So we come back after 10 days there, and one of our vice presidents was doing a debrief, and he asked the question, hey, now that you guys have been there, you were afraid to go there in the first place. Now that you've been there, how many of you could see yourself living there? He didn't say, how many of you want to go back? It was a cool trip. How many of you could see yourself, if God called you, living there and ministering to these people? 10 out of 12 of the students raised their hands. And I'm sitting there going, that's a heart change. God gives us stories of heart change, and that's what we get to go tell around the world. And it's just an amazing thing how he opens people up to use this in their ministries.
We're at about 12 minutes in, Jeff. You may want to look at wrapping somewhere so we can go to some questions as well.
Yeah, let me share one last thing here and a couple of images. So I think there's this inherent fascination with unique and interesting people. I get a lot of young people that'll talk, and younger photographers, and these adventures of traveling to faraway places, I think is ultimately more of their passion than reaching those people for Jesus. But I tend to like to look at the similarities, not the differences. Ooh, this is an exotic place, but what about the similarities in peoples of the world? Every person is created in God's image with body, soul, and spirit. Every person lives under the effects of sin and ultimately needs to be restored. I put together just a few images here at the end that I've collected. This is one of my hobbies, is collecting these images that celebrate kind of the commonalities of humankind, the things that we have in common. And everywhere you go, doesn't matter the culture or the place, we have nose pickers. So why in the world is this something I like to collect? It just adds some humor and entertainment to a lot of the heaviness of what we do. And I just thought, rather than give you some intense type things, we would wrap this thing up with some a little bit of fun. So there we go. I have to look for the unshare button. Oh, stop sharing. It's bright red as I see it.
Any
all
questions for Jeff?
So now you're all going to be digging through your files and sending me your nose picker pictures. Got to be known for something, right?
Jeff, what led you into this kind of role of kind of facilitating others moving towards building their skills and photography? And it seems like you got a multifaceted job, being involved in the ministry as well as doing this, as well as kind of. So where do you derive your joy out of this, and what's your?
Yeah, it's a good string of questions there. Thanks, Alan. The whole mentoring storytellers things came I was on staff with ADOBE for 12 years before we went missionary status, and in that time my role was helping individual missionaries solve their communications challenges. You know, they're gifted doctors and pilots and mechanics and whatever, but not necessarily communicators. And in that, it was a matter of realizing it. Actually, okay, I'm going to be honest with you. God smacked me upside the head and said, "You idiot, why are you trying to do this yourself? There's one of you and 1,000 of them. You know, why are we not investing in others?" And it really was, you know, Southwestern and other places where I was interacting with people who are passionate and incredibly gifted at what they do, but are sitting there going, there's no way to get involved. And I'm like, yeah, there is. So really, I've got 1,000 missionaries with a problem that they can't solve. I got a whole nother network of people who, creative professionals, who are saying, they don't know they're the solution to this problem. And if they did, they don't know how to get there and help solve that problem. So really, that's how that all came together, and you know, investing in others that can get involved in serving the Lord in this way.
Jeff, have you had a number of folks that have gone full-time after they've been through one of your workshops?
We do, yeah, we do. Hannah's not on here today, but she shared with us recently, and of course, Bill, you know Allison, and I've got our new missionary orientation that starts here in a couple of weeks. Has another gal that served for a year for us in Africa, and she's coming back to go long-term, coming back for training. And then got another girl in Colombia that's doing this stuff. So it's growing. You know, and not everybody, you know, that's not the end result for everybody. Some people are like, you know, in our team of freelancers that we can call on or whatever.
What projects do you think you see coming up in the near future? What's on your radar?
Well, there's more projects than I can even think about right now. A lot of what I'm doing. So we've paved a really good pathway to get people in the door of missions, but we're finding with people on the field, how is the best way for their content to be connected with those on this end that are using it in our channels and in our blog and our magazine and all these kind of things. So the workflow, you know, those connecting points, who authorizes their assignments. You know, those of you that worked in missions, you know, you got your field team that thinks they own everything, but they don't really understand the bigger picture. And you got the home office that the missionaries think run everything, and they don't know what they're talking about either. So there's a lot of politics to make the leadership structure fall into place. So as far as specific media projects, we're exploring a lot more doing, you know, why can't we get record through Zoom and stuff, stories from the field of what's happening. Like that strobe light effect, that's pretty good.
So Jeff, not necessarily saying exactly today, but in the current state of things, with this group and other creative professionals, how can we get involved with Storytellers Abroad?
It's a good question. Maybe, rather than a blanket answer, it's probably going to be a one-on-one conversation just to see where people are. We've been building the workshop itself is kind of the opening step for most people, because it very quickly gets people up to speed on our workflow and our message and our voice and things, and building the leadership team on that. Of course, James and Stanley are super involved in that and part of the process. I don't have a specific answer for you, because everybody kind of comes in with different needs. Hey, I'm looking, it's time to step away from what I'm doing and move into this full time. Or what about projects? When can we help you with projects here or there? Some would fit into a coaching role on the workshop. There's just different things. I know it's kind of vague, but Stanley or James, you can jump in with any thoughts you have on that. If you have
James is better. Bill joined us as a coach one time and helped a whole bunch too. I think there's a lot more opportunities of people who want to do this, but the problem right now, as we all know, I think the next year of traveling anywhere is going to be very difficult. So in the short term, there's not as much, but people looking out long term, probably next May or April at the earliest, people doing some workshops next year. But I would just reach out to Jeff if you have interest in working with it, and just saying, here's the skill sets that I have. And some people may want to just go, they have stories and missionaries on the field who need stories told right now. It's a great place also for students who are looking for an internship, because they get that workshop. If you bundle that around that and then stay on the field a little longer, Allison did something like that, but that could turn into a credit for college where they do the class and they stay on a little longer. I don't know if that would work with Billy with his students or something, or anyone else, but that's another idea.
Yeah, we get a good mixture. There's some who are students, some are professionals, have been in the business. The format is really cool because there's 12 people doing 12 different stories that are completely on their own. So whatever skill set somebody comes in with, maybe a photographer, they've never done audio, or somebody who's got less experience, somebody that's been doing this for 30 years, you're bringing that skill set to your project, and you're not holding anybody up, or they're not holding you up. And then in the areas of the specific application to missions, we're able to speak to those, or these Stanley or James are able to raise the bar on whatever skill set wherever you're at. So you get a good mix, and it's more about the synergy. How often have any of us sat there and go, golly, I wonder how Bill would solve this problem, when we're sitting there staring at it. I never get to see that. I work in isolation and I got to figure it out on my own. So what we need more than anything on these trips is a therapist. 18 photographers, give me a break.
Jeff,
Stanley, as far as UTC goes, as getting intern credit for something like this, under our heading of internship, I don't think they would give us credit for that for the students. But we have another category called directed project. And I don't know if this is the same for you, Mark, at Georgia, but under that heading, I think some of the students could get credit for it. It's not an internship credit. An internship credit is required to graduate through our communication program, but the directed project is something that's really valuable to us. And we may have some students. I mean, they would have to petition to get a directed project that's a possibility. I know Jeff has talked to me about that before, but since we haven't been able to meet with our classes, I haven't been able to push anything out for you, Jeff. I will when I get an opportunity to do that. And also, thank you very much for sharing what you've done today. I truly loved it. And you too, Julie.
Every school is completely different in how their requirements are. I look at internships and these kind of experiences. It is not about us or our stories or our program. It's about what can we do to help move that student closer to where they want to get to. So we work with each school and say, what are their requirements, and try to provide an opportunity that meets those. Because they're all over the map. I work with 20 different schools, and it's like it's night and day, the difference in the requirements.
Jeff, did you have early on when you were started this program, any of your administrators say, well, why can't we just teach people from the field to send us pictures or send us material or this kind of stuff? I'm working with an administrator right now that has kind of that same opinion, but did you have that, and how did you deal with it?
Raise your hand, any of you guys who have done missions work that didn't have to push the cart uphill. Yeah, it's constant education. And we did for years. That was our model until, our model was, back in the old days, slideshows, it was do production for them because they didn't have the technical ability to do that. But, mid 90s, everybody's running around with a computer and PowerPoint. So they're content producers, right? So we started teaching our missionaries to do production development, and quickly learned it was that gifting thing. You're not necessarily a communicator just because we teach you to do some skills. So it was, send us your photos, but that wasn't getting it. We also needed to put people alongside you on your teams, and that's the whole vision of storytellers, putting people on their teams that have these specific giftings.
So kind of wrapping up today, and thanks Jeff for presenting, and Julie as well. The next week I don't have anybody on the schedule right yet. The 10th of July I have Daryl Gormat, and then on the 17th we have Michael Alexander. They've all been in the group before. And then on the 31st of July, we're going to have a non-photographer, Vivian Chapman, who's married to Gary Chapman, to kind of talk about what it's like. And she's been coaching photographers for years with Gary. So hopefully she can give us some insights and things that she's noticed that we all could probably use, especially when you're starting your career. So we have those going forward. I'll send out a link for at least the one, not next week, but the week after, if you want to join us. And if I find somebody for next week, I'll send it out. And if you want to join, that's fine. But I do have somebody in 2 weeks for you guys, now that you've kind of visited this format, and then you've probably been in a lot of other Zoom and other kind of gatherings online. Anybody got any tips or suggestions for us, or things you'd like to see?
Well, Stanley, I really enjoyed the format, and I appreciate that you're always on time. I mean, it's always like an hour. You don't go over for half an hour. So like lots of Zoom. So it's appreciated.
Thank you. Well, if you, over on the right, if you go to chat and you go to file, you can save that whole chat. Once you log out, that disappears. That's your one time right now, is to go up there, go to file, and then save it to your desktop, and then you can look at it as a text file later if you want to. I'm looking forward to doing this again, and I probably will be talking to Warren Johnson because he's got some incredible work. I need to get him to show some work. And I think I need to get Mark Johnson at some point to share his work and his students' work, or whatever he wants to do. But I can tell you, Mark is doing some incredible work with UGA students. And they're really making a difference up there in Athens, and some of their projects I've seen online during the summer. in their own self projects. I think we had you present earlier, but I'd love to see some more stuff, Mark, of the students as well as Billy. So anybody, any last parting thoughts? Well, thank everybody. And especially thanks Jeff and Julie, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Stanley.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stanley.
Be safe,
Appreciate it.
everyone.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Want to make